Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Videos, back in another Cartifae Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoy, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn to the Patreon. Let's go and start it, shall we? Today we have Alestiels, set 2 of Lyrical Monasterios, White Wings, Black Wings. So there's some notes to go over about this one. This deck, yeah, it's the white and black wing one. We all know I'm not going to build white wing solo, we're not going to build black wing solo, because I don't like either of them solo. Like, if they're going to give us two separate archetypes, we're not going to build two separate decks around them. We're going to put them all in the same deck, see what chaos is unleashed, deal with the problems as it goes along, and then make the strongest cannon on the face of the earth. So, let's go ahead and get this deck profile started, shall we? First up, we have our starter in Monochromic Personality Alestiel. Grade 0 boost 5k shield, 6k base. Auto when short upon if you went second, draw a card. Now, standard starter, nothing too special about it. There is one thing I like about it, and I'm going to go slightly off topic here. We all know Overdress is getting a Season 3. I'm still not fully into the Overdress anime. In the entirety of the 2 seasons it's had, it has exactly one scene that I actually like. And when I say scene, I mean like 1 to 3 minutes thing, and that's it. Like, out of the entirety of Overdress so far, 1 to 3 minutes out of the entirety of the anime I have liked, and it's just a thing. Now, they haven't said anything about Season 3 yet, but I'm really hoping someone uses Alestiels, because with the dual wings, it could represent dual personality disorder, and I don't know why, I just love it when animes do dual personalities, even if they are sometimes inaccurate in how it goes, but I still would love just to see it, because also I'm pretty sure all of us want to see someone use Lyrical Monasterio in the anime, even if it's just a random character. Just do it. I want to see it. Anyways, that's our starter. Over trigger, we have Blessing Diva Grizael. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. The over trigger that I think in terms of art is the most glorious, yet the one out of the bunch of Lyrical Monasterio over triggers I see the least. Over trigger, even though I have one over trigger in your deck, reveals a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of you, I guess plus 1 mainly for the turn. If revealed during your draw check, activate its additional effect, which is during this fight, you get during your turn all your rear guards get plus 10k power. If you check that, that is a guaranteed game over for your opponent. Or maybe not guaranteed, but like, that much power, especially in this deck where every turn you can get black and white wings active at all times. That is like, your Vanguard's already swinging for 18 double crit while your opponent's Vanguard's at 8, and considering how you did this, you're probably swinging at a 3k Vanguard, so having Grizael with the extra 10k and that extra million, nah, your opponent's fucking losing this game. So all around, I think Grizael's the better over trigger out of like, between it and Obari, but I never see this one. It's literally ever come up in my bind zone only, then after that has never shown up in a drive check or a damage check for that matter, but I have faith that one day it will win me the game, so one of. Our other trigger lineup is 3 copies of a draw trigger in Diligent Follower Shedael, 4 front trigger in Glee Singing Totiel, and 4 crit in With Wings Flying in the Blue Skies Antina, and 4 heal in Soft Light Purel. If you cannot tell, I am running all angel triggers, because literally that is the whole point of my deck. So there's a theme, I will follow it to the best of my ability. Now, if one of the effect triggers happens to be an angel, I know it can't be the crit, I know it can't be the draw. If the, oh no, it can't be the front either, because I know that's a war beast. Yeah, never mind, I'm not running any of the effect triggers just because, like, none of them are angels, and I would only run them in their respective nation. I mean, in their respective lineups. But I think they're all still good. The draw trigger helps with hand cards, and that can be a problem in this deck sometimes, especially when you're trying to focus on both Black Wings and White Wings. Front triggers, since White Wings is the aggressive one and Black Wings is the defensive one, if for some reason you're having an excess stuck of Black Wings like I was, the front trigger definitely helps add that power to you. And Antina is crits. You want crits. If you're going to bring your opponent down to 8k, you want to abuse as much as possible, or 3k for that matter. And then the heals, be smart people, run heals. Grade 1 time, 3 copies of Spokesperson of Heavenly Voice Herjuel. I argue that this is my favorite art among them all, and yet also my least favorite card among them all. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. White Wings active only when your bind zone has odd grades. Auto when this unit is placed on rearguard circle from hand during your main phase. Counterboss won't choose a card with the White Wings ability from your drop zone not named Spokesperson and call it an open rearguard circle. So, easy in this deck. You know, this deck doesn't use up too much counterboss. I mean, in the extent of the words, if you use your abilities every turn to counterboss, then yeah, okay, you will eventually run into a problem here, but I don't think you'll run into too much of a problem, especially because this thing basically allows you to fetch your ride line discard fodder from your drop zone, and it can help you advance the board really quickly and take advantage of White Wings for the aggressive power. So 3 copies of Herjuel, because she can be really helpful, and if you're on the turn where you have both active, having your opponent's Vanguard be like an 8 or 5k base while you're having a column of 23k swing, possibly 31 if you're doing what I do, yeah, that's really good. So 3 copies of Herjuel. 3 copies of Wings with Rainbow Glow Erimuel, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. White Wings, active when only, okay, so I'm not gonna bother saying it anymore. White Wings is when the bind zone only has odd grades. Black Wings is even grades only. Auto when it's placed on rearguard circle if your opponent's Vanguard do grade 3 or greater. Counterblast 1, choose one of your rearguards for every 3 of your units with odd grades, and it gets plus 5k and plus 1 critical for the turn. You cannot choose the same unit twice. Basically what that means is, if your entire board is units of odd grades, you can pick 2 units and they'll get plus 5k and a crit. And since you'll be on, most likely, Alestiel grade 3, you'll probably already have a 5k and a crit on it, which means you can make your whole front row hit for at least 15k with double critical. And if you have both black and white wings active, then your opponent's Vanguard's probably at 8k and they're probably going to die this turn, or at least PG everything. So Erimuel can be really good. She can get you numbers, she can get you criticals. If you play right with Black Wings, like this deck has one singular combo that is never going to go off because the amount of setup it takes is astronomical. But if you can get it off, your opponent is going to die that turn unless they PG everything. But, or unless they've been stockpiling guard for the entirety of the game. Either way, Erimuel is pretty good. My thing is I just hate using her because she requires me to have a full board for her effect to go off twice. And that is not something I like. I wish it was for every 2. It would be slightly easier, but I don't know. I mean, Erimuel's fine. I give her a 3 of. Then we have our PG and Unwelcoming and Private Desiel. Grade 1 boost to 0 shield, 6k base. Continuous Sentinel, you have 4 Sentinels in your deck. Auto is put on guard circle, choose one of you. It cannot be until the battle, and if your hand has 2 or more cards, choose a card from hand, discard it. Standard PG, nothing too special about it. If you don't know what that means, it means if this is only one of the cards in your hand, play when we put on guard circle, you don't have to discard a card for it, which is really nice, because that is literally the sole reason I did not die to Kari when I should have. I still lost to Kari, but if it wasn't for that, I would have literally lost by the grand total of 1 hand card. So Desiel is really nice with that PG skill. Does that mean you need the PG for this deck to be good? No, it is preferable that you have it, but if you can't have it, but you still run the Angel feel of the deck, don't worry, because the Alestiel Trial deck literally comes with an Angel PG, and if that thing's over $1, then people who are selling that card is literally doing it for money and nothing else, not instead of out of the goodness of their own heart, because you shouldn't charge more than $1 for PG that is worse than every other PG, and some of them are effectively cheaper. Like, I remember when this came out, it was 25 cents. So 4 of. And then our last grade 1 is the grade 1 of the ride line, Indecisive Sky, Alestiel. Quite literally, I love the arts of the Alestiel cards, but I hate their ride line because to my memory, they are the only, okay, well not the only, but one of the only ride lines that's ride line cards are restrictive to Vanguard. And when I say that, I mean all of their skills being restrictive to Vanguard. Like, not just having a second skill that's restrictive to Rearguard, but having skills that are only restricted to Vanguard, which sucks. But anyways, her skill, auto when it's put on Vanguard Circle, bind the top card of your deck. If you're in White Wings, counter continues Vanguard Circle. When you would ride from your ride deck, you may Soul Blast 1 instead of discard a card from your hand. Okay, if we talk about old set 1, I think that was honestly the better one of the two, because that just allowed you to ride for free and it was a lot easier to get soul in this deck and manage it. But if you're in this deck, you do sometimes have a bouncing soul problem. What I mean by that is, you don't have a soul problem in the sense that you will be at 0 soul all times, but I mean if you're constantly trying to pull off the play that requires this in the grade 2 variant of it, you're going to have a soul problem. But Black Wings continues Vanguard Circle, all your opponent's grade 1 unless rear guards cannot attack this unit. That has never been an issue for me, because, like, no one I play against ever really calls grade 1s if they go first. I mean, if they go second. I think I'm one of the few players, or at least that I know that do. Like, I know there are a lot of players that actually do it, but I've seen very few other people do it against me, regardless if I'm playing Alestiel or not. I don't know why, it just happens. But, you know, Alestiel's, it's a good card. I really do wish it had a rearguard skill. I really do wish, like, the second skill, the Black Wings skill, was like a Vanguard or Rearguard skill, but it's fine. I guess we just had another skill where if you have a card in Bind Zone, it gets +2, but one of in the ride deck, there's no reason to run in the main deck. You know, normally I'd make an excuse for it. This time I can't, because it's straight up a vanilla. Then we have 2 copies of Heavenly Recital Emmael, or first grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 10k base, Black Wings, auto rear at the end of the battle that attack anything while boosted. Choose a card from soul or rear, bounce it to hand. If you chose from soul, put this to soul. So, really nice way to fetch Persona Rides out, which is amazing. nice way to kind of bounce your on places, and considering one of our main playmakers isn't on places, it's really nice to get it back to hand. Or maybe you can get like Emmael back to, you know, activate her skill again next turn for extra power and extra critical, or maybe this thing to fill up a board faster, or just any of your other grade 2s. All around Emmael is really good. She's a nice card. I would have put her at 4, but considering like what the main focus of this deck is, I kind of have to put her at 2. But if you want to swap the numbers between her and I think the next card, actually no, if you want to swap the numbers between her and the grade 2 counterpart of this to go to 2 to 3, I was just doing that because she's better. So 2 copies. 3 copies of Advent Stroke Shedael, grade 2 intercept 5k shield AK base, act rear guard, counter +1 shove to soul, draw a card, choose it to 1 card from your bind zone, and it gets +1 grade to end of turn. In Black Wings, continues rear guard, this unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects and cannot be attacked by your opponent's rear guards. Basically meaning if they want to get rid of this, they have to swing into it with their Vanguard, but also, while it cannot make your Black Wings and White Wings active during the same turn, it can at least change them. So you can, say your hand is full of both black and white wing cards, and a lot of them are on places. You could do whichever is currently active. Like say for example, you currently have White Wings active. You can do all your White Wing skills like Ermuel and Herjuel, and then call her, use her skill, counter +1 shove to soul, draw a card, get the grade up on that odd grade, so then it goes to an even grade, and then you got Black Wings active for the rest of the turn. Your opponent's units lose 5k, and then you can use your Black Wings, basically giving you a pseudo Black and White Wing during the turn. It is not particularly amazing solely because the counterblast thing sometimes causes a problem, but the fact that she gets you a soul in a deck that if you really want to pull off that combo I mentioned earlier, needs soul to do it, she is an amazing card for that, so I give her 3 of. 3 of the thing that if you want to tech it down to 2 and then put this up to 3 because you might need it at 3, which is Fleeting Longing Barrel. Grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Black Wings, Soul Blast 3, auto when it's placed on rearguard circle. Choose one of your opponent's units for every 2 of your rear guards with even grades, and they lose 5k for the turn. Then your opponent puts all their power 0 or less rear guards on the bottom of the deck in any order, and same unit cannot be chosen twice. So, if you were wondering why this one says 2 and this one says 3, it is because, if you know, Alestiels only have grade 3s to work with, which means you are more likely to have a full field of odd units than you are more likely to have a full field of even units, because the even units will at max only ever have 5 unless they give us a grade 4, and the odd units will have a max of 6, which means you could use Erimuel more if it was 2. I really do wish it was 2 for every 2 you would get that 5 kind of crit, but it's still fine with 3. This one, on the other hand, it is only 2 times it will go off, but that is a way to make your opponent's Vanguard lose more power, or you could just use it to make your opponent's rear guards weaker, and because the grade 3 targets everyone, basically that's a -10 to their whole board, so you can get rid of pesky rear guards. Barrel all around is really good. If they gave us a grade 4, depending on what that grade 4 did, this thing would be astronomically better or astronomically worse, because while it doesn't require, while it doesn't specify a Alestiel Archwing of Twin thing, it's not, depending on what the grade 4 did, it might not be that good. So 3 copies of Barrel though, because it can interfere with the opponent, get rid of pesky units, and make it harder for them to defend that turn. And you can combine it with this thing where if you're willing to go through the convoluted combo that I'm not going to explain, but basically you just fill up your hand with a bunch of odd and even units and then proceed to call them all down on the same turn and then abuse the shit out of these 2 skills and then lower their power and increase your power to the point where unless they have 3 PGs, they're dying this turn, or if they're low damage / having up hand cards for guarding. But either way, Barrel's good, run it at 3 or 2, and then put this to 3. And then we have the other card in this deck that can switch your black and white wings around, or in this case, almost guarantee that you have both active. Privileged Potential Phenael. Quite literally my favorite card. I love the background. It reminds me of the buddy fight background for Star Dragon World, or like the future when they beat Yamigeto. I like the card itself. It just looks really cool. Grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Also, its wings look kind of rainbow, and I think they look cool on it. Auto, when it's placed on rearguard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Alestiel's card name, Soul Blast 1, choose a card from your bind zone, put it to hand. If you put a card to your hand, choose a card from your hand and bind it. Okay, more ways to switch black and white wings around. It doesn't require it to be on either of the 2 for that to happen. Interestingly enough, this thing specifies your Vanguard has to be an Alestiel, but not the grade, but not like of a specific name like most support cards are. This one just says Alestiel, and when they would make the grade 4, by assumption the grade 4 would also be an Alestiel. So Are they implying we're getting a grade 4 next set? Because if it is, that's good news. I might be reading way too much into this, but if they're implying that we're getting a grade 4, I'm really happy because I'm actually curious to see what this grade 4 would do. But I have an idea, but I know it's not going to do it. Anyways, Black Wings. When this unit attacks a Vanguard from rear, counterblast 1, choose an opponent's grade 3 or greater Vanguards, and it loses 5k for the turn. Okay, you know, since you're in Black Wings already with your grade 3, that is automatically a minus 10 to the opponent's Vanguard because the grade 3 would do it for you. So really nice that they're at the very least a 3. And if you combine it with this, they're in the negatives, and you can combine it with this to give your units more power. Then again, for this thing to happen, this wouldn't be on the board when that would go off, but still. So all around, Phenael's really good. Lowers power, almost guarantees your Black Wings and White Wings, and gives you a really easy switch between the two, so I give it a hot 4 of. And then our last grade 2 is our grade 2 of the ride line, shining as is Alestiel. Weirdly enough, I like her for the doves and not the card itself. Grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto is placed on Vanguard Circle. Choose a card from your bind zone, put it to bottom. If you put a card, bind the top card of your deck face up. I remember, I solely won a game off of that ability, because if it didn't go to bottom, I would have lost by deck out. The funny thing is, when it first came out, I was like, I wish this thing would bounce the card to hand. And during the first times I was playing this deck, when I would bind for her skill, I bounded the over trigger. So when I put her to bottom with the over trigger, I was like, God damn it, I really wish she bounced the over trigger to hand. But thankfully she didn't, because if she did, then I would have lost by deck out that game. And I won by deck out that game, literally because it came down to the wire. So if it wasn't for that skill, I would have lost. So, you know, be grateful for what you have. Anyways, White Wings active Vanguard Circle once per turn. Counterblast 1 gets a crit. Okay, and Black Wings continues Vanguard during the battle that attack. Your opponent cannot call triggers from their hand to guard circle. Now, I don't remember what the exact skill of the unit that I'm about to say is, but if you know what, like, Matilda is, the grade 2 from Isabel, that is literally the same fucking thing. I remember its skill was, like, middle of the top card. I think if it's a normal unit, Counterblast 1 gets a crit. If it's not, I think they can't guard with grade 0s. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. It may have been they are only allowed to guard with grade 0s. But point is, they stole this straight from Matilda, except they made it worse, because at least Matilda was a Vanguard or Rearguard skill. This was just a straight up Vanguard skill. Once more, hate that solely because if it had a Vanguard or Rearguard skill, I'd advocate for running into the main deck, but there's no reason to, so want them in the right deck, because why not? And I love the White Wing skill so much because I love giving extra criticals, but yet it's the one I see the least, because there's no reason to give it that second skill. And then we have Enveloping Compassion Torquel. Grade 3 200 persona rate, 13k base. White Wings active White Wings auto rear. When this unit attacks, this unit gets plus 10 for the battle. At the end of the battle, you may put this unit to soul. So 23k swing, really nice, and it gets you a soul, which can be really helpful for things like this, where you gotta switch around your bind zone cards, or for things like this that minus your opponent's board. Not to mention that you can just discard this for ride line fodder, and then call it back with Herjuel when you're in White Wings, and then boom, your column is swinging for 31, and at the end of the turn this goes to soul. End of battle goes to soul. So all around Torquel is really good, and it allows for hitting numbers in this deck, and with this deck you can, literally every turn when I played this deck, granted I've only played it 3 times, but literally every grade 3 turn that I've had with this deck, and each game has gone at least 3 grade 3 turns each. So that's at least 9 turns every time that 9 turns in grand total every time that I've been able to activate both Black and White Wings in the same turn. So yeah, this deck can do it pretty easily. So I think Torquel's an amazing card in this deck. If you want to tech her up to 3, you can, but I think 2 is just fine because the power to an 8k Vanguard is good enough for me, so 2 of. 3 copies of Incessant Vocal Echiel, grade 3 200 persona rate, 13k base. Auto when is placed on, when your Vanguard is placed, bind this unit, draw a card, and auto when is bound, both White and Black Wings are active till the end of the opponent's next turn, basically making this thing a lot better for your defensive sakes, and making your, I guess, skills a lot more aggressive during your turn. Now, I think this thing is interesting, because the Vanguard place thing was always my problem, because every time I would place it, it would just die the next turn, die the next turn before I can actually use it, because they play a lot of people that can just kill rear guards. But, yeah, suddenly, because you can bind it from anywhere, you can bind it from top deck and it will go off, or if you have Phenael, you can just bind it from your hand, and then, boom, free Black and White Wings for the turn. Yeah, so Phenael breaks this, and Echiel's at 3. I wanted to run it at 4, but I really wanted options with things like Torquel and putting more copies of Phenael, who is actually needed in this deck, and same with Herjuel. So I kind of just decided to take it down to 3, and I don't regret the decision because I still see it as often as I did at 4. So 3 copies of Elchiel. Yet somehow I see less of my Persona rides, despite the fact I have literally kept those the same. Somehow when you lose more copies of other cards, you lose the ability to see other cards, even though they had nothing to do with it. And then our last card in the deck is 4 copies, 3 in the main deck, 1 in the ride deck, of Archangel of Twin Wings Alestiel. Grade 3 to Persona Ride, 13k base. Auto van at the beginning of your main phase, choose a card from your bind zone and put it to hand. If you put a card, bind the top card of your deck face up. So one way Elchiel can get in the damage zone, but basically bind zone, but anything that ends up in your bind zone is coming to hand. And if it ends up in bind zone, you can just fetch it right out and then just use Phenael to put it right back in there and then activate your black and white wings. Speaking of which, her black and white wings is white wings during your turn, this unit gets plus 5k in a crit, and black wings during your turn, all your opponent's units lose 5k. So, you know, if you combine Elchiel with this is an 18k double crit. Their Vanguard's an 8k most likely, or if they're on grade 2, they're at 5k. None of your skills, except for this one, second skill, is restricted to them being at grade 3. So, call, lower their power even more. Call, abuse a grade 2 0 powered Vanguard with a 31k swing to face without Persona rides. But yeah, Alestiel hits numbers. It's funny. It can, well, technically doesn't hit numbers, but it can weaken the opponent to where it hits numbers by default. My only thing with this thing is, I wish we had a better way to get Persona rides, because, you know, this deck I think is one of the decks that really needs Persona rides to hit really good numbers. Considering it can hit default numbers regardless, I think it's still good. So 3 of Alestiel in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck. And that's it for the deck, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. All around, this deck is interesting. I don't find it boring, but I don't find it, like, the most amazing either. Like, I do prefer things like Filthy Rose and Carryover just because I like fucking around with the board, but Alestios are still good. They minus power, they get criticals, they fuck around with the board. It's a fun deck to play. You can play Black Wings, you can play White Wings, or you can play a combination of both. It is very weird. It allows for multiple different styles, so that's what I like to see from people. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to the Patreon, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.